let's discuss the answers to case study number 3, reserves. And the first requirement is the bank's net revenue attributable to each fund category. The calculation of the net revenue attributable to each fund category is as follows. Based on the facts of the case, the total profit generated is 30 million pesos. So we need to allocate this amount of 30 million pesos based on the fund category, the current account, the unrestricted investment account, and the bank's equity. And the basis is the amount invested. Take note that based on the facts of the case, the average balance for the current account is 50 million pesos. But it is the bank's policy that the funds actually invested for current account is 30%. And therefore, the 30% of the average balance is 15 million pesos. For the unrestricted investment account, the average balance is 250 million pesos. And it is the bank's policy that the funds actually invested is 70%. And therefore, the amount invested based on bank's policy insofar as unrestricted investment account is 175 million pesos. And the same is true with the bank's equity, where the average balance is 15 million pesos, but it is the bank's policy that the rate is 75%, and therefore the amount invested insofar as bank's equity is concerned is 37.5 million pesos. So the total profit amount of 30 million pesos is allocated based on the amount invested. For instance, for the current account, to determine the net revenue attributable to the current account, it's 30 million, the total profit, multiplied by 15, which represents the amount invested for current account, over the total amount invested of 227.5 million. So it's 15 over 227.5. The same procedures or manner of calculation with respect to the other funds. The second requirement is the determination of the profit equalization reserve and investment risk reserve. And it is calculated as follows. Take note, the revenue here is based on the revenue attributable to the unrestricted investment account, in the sense that the profit equalization reserve is based on the unrestricted investment account. And it is the bank's policy that the PIR rate is 2%. And 2% of the 23 million representing the profit attributable to the unrestricted investment account, 2% of that amount is 461,538. And by deducting the profit equalization reserve, then we have the revenue after PER. And it is important because we need to determine the profit attributable to the investment account holders. Take note that based on the Mudaraba contract, the sharing is 60% and 40%. Then 60% goes to the investment account holders. And therefore, the profit attributable to investment account holders is 13,569,231, which is 60% of the revenue after the profit equalization reserve. And from that, we can determine the investment risk reserve. According to bank's policy, the rate is 3%. and therefore 3% of 13.5 million is 407,078. The third requirement is the amount due to unrestricted investment account holders. So the amount due to unrestricted investment account holders is actually the profit attributable. So the 13.5 million is the profit attributable to investment account holders. But since there is an investment with reserve, then we need to deduct the amount of 407,078 to arrive at the net amount due to unrestricted investment account holders. The fourth requirement is the amount of hiba due to the current account holders. When we say hiba, it is the gift or donation due to the current account holders. And it is the bank's policy to provide or to give hiba of 30% based on the profit attributable to the current account. So based on this table, the net revenue attributable to current account is 1.9 million pesos, and the 30% of which is 593,407. So this is the amount of hiba due to the current account holders. The fifth requirement is the profit attributable to the equity holders or the shareholders from the investment of all funds. And this is determined as follows. Take note that based on this table, the net revenue attributable to funds, bank's equity is 4,945,055. And this is the amount here. Plus the bank share with respect to the Mudaraba contract. Take note that the sharing is 40% for the bank, and the profit attributable to the equity holders based on that is the 40% of 22,615,385. The 22,615,385 is actually the profit attributable to unrestricted investment account after the profit equalization reserve. As you can see here, the net revenue attributable to unrestricted investment account is 23 million plus. And if you're going to deduct the profit equalization reserve, then we arrive at 22,615,385. And the 40% of that is attributable to the shareholders. Then plus the 70% of the revenue attributable to the current account. Take note that 30% is given as hiba, and the remaining percentage is attributable to the shareholders. And 70% of 1.9, and therefore the total profit attributable to the equity holders or shareholders from the investment of all funds is 15,375,824.